Welcome everyone to the Hurting Humanity channel. When I was covering the story about those earthquake drills that are going on last week across the entire earth right now, they're doing earthquake drills, or they just did a scheduled earthquake drill where they say shake it up, shake up drill, and the kids went underneath the desks. I was talking about how they're conditioning people to prepare for an earthquake. And after I did that video, I saw this come out of local Missouri media about not if, but when an earthquake would hit along Missouri's New Madrid Fault. Now, if you're not familiar with the New Madrid Fault, they claim it is a very active area where there are more than 200 seismic events measured each year. But really what they're doing by telling you stuff like this is that they're preparing to unleash something in this area. And coincidentally, this all ties into predictive programming that I'll show you after I play for you this news clip, because even recently, a few months ago, I did a video about a B-level movie that came out called Continental Split, where they showed an earthquake directly underneath the St. Louis Arch, which caused a continental split. Now, if you understand what they're saying here with the New Madrid fault line, well, they're pretty much hinting at the same thing. So back to the drills that were run. I showed you some of the drills that were being done in classrooms where they were showing children get underneath the desk and they were saying, hey, everybody, there might be an earthquake. This is what you should do to prepare. But in Missouri, they're actually running active earthquake drills where they actually have firemen and they have other personnel like EMTs who are running real drills, preparing for a massive earthquake where they would have to go down into a mall or an area and remove bodies out from underneath the rubble. So here is the clip that aired on the news, and keep in mind the theme, not if, but when. This could be, with the predictive programming I've seen, this could be something to monitor. Here's the news clip.
Across the Midwest, thousands of people took the time to prep for a potential earthquake, part of what's called the Great Shakeout. Many taking part in drills simulating what to do if an earthquake strikes.
It's a worthwhile drill because federal experts warn a magnitude 6 earthquake or higher could happen in our area in the next 50 years. New Madrid, Missouri is home to the New Madrid Fault Line. A massive earthquake hasn't happened there in quite some time. But the question, what would an earthquake on that fault line do to our bridges, stores, and infrastructure is important to think about. Avery Martinez takes a deep dive on the dangers right in our backyard.
Imagine it's 1812 and you're a settler in this town, New Madrid, Missouri. And for weeks you felt shakes in the ground. And then one night, a giant quake. The ground is ripping apart. The Mississippi is running backwards. And over your head as you look up, you see an 80-foot wall of water just washing towards you, washing away buildings as they collapse around you. Now, you got to remember, this was almost 200 years ago, before things like steel that you see behind me become normal parts of building. So the question today becomes, how would this fare against that? And how do you prepare for that, both in the air and on the ground?
The 1812 quake was roughly 8 magnitude on the 10-point Richter scale. While it's difficult to predict where it might happen, officials are constantly prepping for when it does, like these drills at a mall, as there's a 25 to 40% chance of a magnitude 6 quake in the next 50 years.
So we're simulating a collapse of the mall with search and rescue.
It's just one of many drills this year.
And we were looking through rubble, smashed delivery trucks, try and locate somebody or a sign of life.
Emergency planning is focused on saving lives instead of preventing the inevitable.
This is reality. So those older buildings, the different types of construction over the period of years.
Hundreds of minor earthquakes have struck along the fault this year, but experts say there's only a 10% chance of a major quake right now. A FEMA report found if the 1812 quake hit today, the damage could exceed $200 billion. USGS estimates nationwide $14 billion of structure damage and loss are due to earthquakes each year. When the 1812 quake hit, the Midwest was rural and open. 200 years later, Not so much. St. Louis area first responders train constantly. Seismologists believe real concerns come after the shaking.
Then you got to start worrying, well, will the pipes break? Well, for how long will we not have electricity?
While the Midwest hasn't had a major quake recently, preparation is key.
When you look at the St. Louis area, especially on the New Madrid seismic fault, one could argue that we're due for one of those.
Impacts to rivers, bridges, and trains are major concerns. That's why it's crucial to understand earthquakes to better build and prepare. St. Louis University has studied them for over a century, a program created to track the New Madrid fault.
Why did we have the earthquakes? What was the nature of the earthquake? Where's the fault?
Scientists estimate chance.
We don't know when they're going to happen, and it's not because of a lack of trying.
Buildings on soft soil near rivers are more likely to collapse. Seismologists study data so that
if a disaster occurs, that there will be a response to help the people that are affected, and it will be done quickly.
Nationwide, over 500 USGS computer monitoring stations are constantly watching. Pablo is a survivor of a Chilean quake.
And I was on a 7th floor, and I remember, okay, this is very scary. Well, one way to defeat fear is to understand it.
And the only way to imagine the future is to look at the past. Look at the impact of the 1812 quakes in these photos, taken 90 years later. I spoke to the New Madrid Historical Museum, who collects research on the fault and the people surviving the 1812 quake.
A woman named Eliza Bryant. She wrote an account about the earthquakes and the fear.
When I went outside, people were screaming, running to and fro.
The world exploded around it.
Wrecked boats covered the river.
Welcome to the Mississippi River.
It's prudent to be worried about them, not necessarily afraid of the possibility of them, but to take prudent steps to prepare for something in the future.
Adapting to danger, many states have response plans for commerce, economics, and transportation.
You have to worry about, are the road structures down there, the bridges safe? So you can create a nice scenario for training. A lot of it is related to life safety.
So if you're preparing for an earthquake, what do?
Just get away from anything that breaks like glass.
Train experts.
It's a tough day at work for everybody here.
And live.
Be aware that it can happen, but don't live your life as if it's going to happen every day.
And all the experts I spoke with told me one thing. This isn't a question of if, but when. And when it does happen, all we can try to do is prepare.
So they're telling you that there's concerns along Missouri's New Madrid fault. They're telling you this because they say there's lots of seismic events that are measured there, even though they're too small to be felt, right? So there's all this stuff out there about the year 1811 and 1812, and who can trust any of the history that they actually give us, or what technology they even had back then? We don't even know. All we know is that we're told that we're more advanced now than they were back then. But a lot of us believe that this technology has been around for a long period of time. I mean, if this is the fallen angel technology, then this was passed on to man, and it wasn't just passed on to man. Now, they could have been causing events for a long, long period. So back in 1811 and 1812, it's kind of like what they tell us with the Carrington event. These are things that they tell us that we're supposed to take their word for, right? So they keep telling us that the New Madrid fault is still a very active place, that it's still active, but you can't feel it. So that should make people suspicious. Now, this is the trailer for the movie Continental Split, which is filled with lots of significant symbolism, like the St. Louis Arch, which I've covered in the past, that the St. Louis Arch was designed as a weapon for the CIA. It is a weather modification arc. That's what it's there for. No other reason. Somebody didn't just build that because they were more creative than somebody else, and they said, wow, that's a great idea. Aero Serene built the St. Louis Arch. He designed the St. Louis Arch to be used for weather modification. And here, now remember that clip that I just showed you, how they're preparing for a massive event to occur along the lines of Missouri, Illinois, Kentucky, Tennessee, and Arkansas. And here is conveniently a trailer for a movie, and we know how they work, right? They do this all the time. They reveal these things all the time through movies. Even if they're B-level bombs like this, they're out there for a reason. Here's the trailer for Continental Split.
Come on, we're gonna be late.
All right. Please turn that off.
Is that an earthquake?
A what? Brendan, stop!
Mom, it's Brenda. They've been in an accident. What happened? Was Eric okay? We just had a major seismic event. The New Madrid fault is the largest on this continent. If we're seeing this much activity, it means something way bigger could be on the way. But there's sinkholes, massive sand blows emerging. None of this is normal. We don't pinpoint where and how these plates are slipping. We're looking at a 10.0 or larger in less than 9 hours.
It'll split the entire continent in half. You should call the governor or have her issue a national emergency.
This earthquake will rip apart the entire country.
I cannot declare a state of emergency on a hunch. Just do the right thing.
Look out!
We need to do something.
We confirm the weak spot and relieve the stress along the fault.
No!
We gotta go, we gotta go!
It's too late.
We have to stop this quake. Otherwise, millions will die.
So again, you may have noticed in Continental Split, the theme, they're talking about the theme of what? What's responsible for it? Oh, the climate's responsible for it, right? As they show you the St. Louis Arch, and they talk about the water rising, the brave fighting, but what they forget to mention is the government doing it. Because the government's had the ability to do it for a while, and now we're seeing it happening and being weaponized all around us. And again, I talked about the St. Louis Arch. For anyone out there that doesn't know, if you're trying to wake up yourself or you're trying to wake other people up to weather modification and weaponized weather and the government's ability to do this and how all these things around us that we look at as architectural achievements and things like that are actually giant antennas for the most part. And the St. Louis Arch, you could point to somebody and say, well, here's the designer. Eero Saarinen was working for the OSS, which is the CIA, on, quote, weapons and devices. But what? In his spare time, he created this gigantic, odd-looking arch that really has no significance to anything, right? It's just some random thing we're supposed to look at and ooh and ah over. Oh, wow, that looks really cool and neat. But did you know the person who designed it wasn't somebody who went to school for architecture? Do you know it's somebody who's working for the government to create and design weapons, specifically weaponized weather weapons? And he's the one who designed this mysterious thing. And being that it goes very close to where the New Madrid fault is, people should be suspicious about its ability to be used and harness a potential man-made earthquake. And again, the man-made earthquake, along with all of our understanding of weaponized weather and HAARP, is something people need to know about. Whether you want to explain it to them as Tesla's earthquake machine, you should start there and explain to them how when Tesla supposedly got sick and died, how they called in Donald Trump's uncle. And what did he do? Well, he took a look at all these patents that Tesla had. Because it was reported that Tesla created an earthquake in New York City a few years before his death and had this patent and all ready to go. So whose hands did it end up in? Oh, Donald Trump's uncle's hands, who was called upon by who? The CIA and the FBI to come in and take a look at all of his engineering documents, right? And now, coincidentally, all these years later, the man who's front and center to be the leader of the United States of America while we're under climate attack happens to be Donald Trump, right? But these are all mere coincidences, right? So I wanted to show everybody out there that because I had done a video already about Continental Split and the predictive programming. And then you see it even after I cover the drills, how they're talking about drills being done. They weren't just doing drills underneath desks. They literally were taking firemen, taking resources, taking people who obviously have lots going on as firemen, and they were making them practice this drill and run this drill as if there was going to be a massive earthquake around the St. Louis area. They even showed you in the news clip the St. Louis Arch, if you didn't notice. So something is coming. It's like they say, right? I mean, we've all been saying the same thing. It's not if, but when. What they're trying to do is explain it to you as if it has something to do with the Earth's, seismic shifts and all this technical jargon that you're not supposed to understand, that you're told is natural. But then when you learn about things like the St. Louis Arch learn about HARP, you learn about antennas and how all these devices that they put out there, like these 5G towers, are nothing but antennas that shoot up and heat up the sky. Then you start saying to yourself, are any of these things that you've told us actually real? Is the New Madrid fault real, or is it something you're putting out there? And I'm not saying real as if it didn't occur. I'm saying real as if the way that it possibly occurred back then, the way that they tell you it naturally occurred and the earth shifted here, and you're supposed to just go, wow. I guess if it happened then, it could happen now. And that's what they want you to believe. That all these things, like these strange things that are going to occur with the weather, are a result of carbon emissions, rising sea levels, cow farts, and climate change. But the reality of the matter is they're training you to accept those as the answers for why all of a sudden you're seeing the most bizarre weather patterns and bizarre weather events all at once. And if people were paying attention to what's going on around us with all the insanity that they talk about every day on TV, about men having babies and what a woman is, at the same time we just had this massive supposed outbreak, you should be looking at that. Everybody should be looking at that and saying the government is out of control. These too many things are happening at once here. This isn't normal. It's happening one after the other after the other. We're not being left alone. Exactly, because we are under attack. Psychological attack and weaponized weather attack, in addition to many other things, including getting chemicals dumped on us every day, dumped in our food, dumped in our water, or those radiation towers that they also use for steering weather. I thank everybody for being here. I hope you're all doing well. God bless you and your families as always.